Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice Newsbreak. We appreciate you being here with us. The holiday season is in full swing at the White House and beyond. First Lady Melania Trump celebrating the holiday and Christmas with some young children in Quantico, Virginia, just a couple of hours ago. This is a Toys for Tots event hosted by the U.S. Marine Corps. The First Lady was on hand to support the U.S. Marines as they gave out toys to these young people and also spreading some Christmas cheer while she was doing it.
Today, we are here for one of the most beloved traditions of the holiday season, Toys for Tots, led by United States Marine Corps Reserve. For more than 75 years, Marines and volunteers across America collect and deliver new toys to children who need a little extra joy during Christmas.
And back home at the White House, President Trump likely keeping an eye on the situation between Thailand and Cambodia as the two sides are accusing each other of breaching a Trump-brokered ceasefire. Thailand admits to launching airstrikes into Cambodia after fighting broke out in multiple areas along the border between the two countries. President Trump was on hand for the Kuala Lumpur peace accords signing between the two countries just a couple of months ago, during which peace was agreed upon. Meantime, the Trump administration continuing its mass deportations with dozens of Iranians who were in the United States now headed home. Iran's Miran news agency says the country's foreign minister is acknowledging that 55 Iranians are being flown home from the United States on what is now the second major deportation flight to the embattled country. The deportations come amid heightened tension between the U.S. and Iran following the bombings of nuclear sites there in Iran, as well as the 12-day war with Israel back in June. And happening today, the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing the legality of President Trump firing a member of the Federal Trade Commission. The bigger implication of this case, however, will be the determination of presidential powers to fire members of independent agencies. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates.
Charlie Kirk Show, where truth lives.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. First, I want to tell you about one of our partners, and we're going to get to Jack Posobiec, who is on with us. We're going to be talking Warner Brothers, v. Netflix, v. Paramount. He's got all the scoop. He's also been blocked by Netflix, which is pretty impressive. Think about it. Every dollar you spend is either supporting your values or working against them. In today's economy, where you spend your money matters, and that's how we take back our country dollar by dollar, payment by payment. Patriot Mobile is leading the way as America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. You'll get exceptional nationwide coverage because unlike most of the other budget wireless providers, Patriot Mobile has access to all three major U.S. networks. You can even add two numbers on two networks on one phone, something the other guys simply won't do. That's what I do. I have a dual SIM with two numbers, two networks. Stay connected with flexible, unlimited data plans to fit your lifestyle. These plans offer high-speed data, mobile hotspot, international roaming, device protection, and even internet backup. And here's the best part. They have your back. They have your values. They share them, and they are working to advance those in all kinds of different ways, including supporting the show, supporting Turning Point USA. Switching is simple. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Right now, go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie or call 972-PATRIOT. So again, that's patriotmobile.com/Charlie or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Charlie to get a free month of service. All right, welcome to the show, Jack Posobiec, host of Human Events Daily, Turning Point contributor. Jack, how you doing, my friend?
Dude, we called it. We called the shot last week on Thought Crime. Everybody said, why is Poso going so crazy about Netflix? Why is he Stranger Things? And what does this have to do with everything? What is it all? And I'm sitting there, guys. I'm like, guys, we're doing 40 minutes on Netflix. And everybody was trying to figure this out on Thursday, remember? And then it was Friday, the next day, that it was like, boom, Netflix. Let's just say I may have heard something from my little birds that something was in the air regarding the Netflix buyout of Warner Brothers, which would be disastrous. It would put Obama in complete control of some of the most iconic American brands. You're talking DC Comics, you're talking HBO, everything. So Obama aligned Netflix in charge with all of them. And we've seen, by the way, what they've done with the pedophile content, with cuties, with these very strange and we talked about it at length last week, but this overly sexualized content and LGBT content introduced in Stranger Things. And it's like, guys, we gotta actually call this stuff out when it's happening. So then all of a sudden Friday happens, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, Netflix is going to buy Warner Brothers, it's done. And even a lot of people who work in the film business are saying that this is really bad because they're going to put movie theaters out of business. We don't want that because we want movie theaters. We want community in America still. It's like America's last public ritual in many ways, like non-religious, secular ritual. And then today, boom, you got Paramount in with, and they're not perfect either, but way better than Netflix. And they come in with this hostile offer direct to Netflix's shareholders. And the key difference is here, Netflix put in $83 billion for their deal. Paramount's coming in at $100 billion. So this thing is hot. It's probably the hottest story in the country.
108.4. So it's a bidding war. Paramount attempts hostile offer for Warner Brothers. David Ellison calls Netflix's $82.7 billion deal value an inferior proposal and tells Warner shareholders that his coalition, which, to be clear, includes Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, they promises $18 billion more in cash. So the question then is, Jack, why do you believe that Warner Bros. Is opting for an inferior deal with Netflix? Is there an ideological fight happening over this deal?
I mean, there very well could be. There very, very well could be. Look, Zaslav from Warner Brothers has always been tight with a lot of the guys over at Netflix. And look at it. You talk to ideology, right? The ideology that we've seen for so many of these executives is far left. And who is on the board of Netflix right now? Susan Rice. She was there from 2018 to about 2021. Then they signed a huge deal with Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. They're going to be putting their content on Netflix and have continued to put their content. So then Susan Rice leaves. She goes to the Biden administration until about 2023. She comes back to Netflix. And immediately after coming back to Netflix, Susan Rice and Netflix announced what? Oh, another huge expanded deal with the Obama family. This reminds me, by the way, Andrew, very much of the way that the NFL signed their Super Bowl deal with Jay-Z, and they gave over the halftime show to Jay-Z. And of course, Turning Point USA is very smartly, I think, responding back in kind there. And so you've got this situation where the audience doesn't want this stuff. The audience doesn't want wokeness. And in fact, we just saw a new study by GLAAD, of all people. I can't believe I'm citing GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance, but they're saying that actually looking forward next year that LGBT content and characters are going to be moving away from shows, that people are moving. We don't want peak woke anymore. So what we're seeing is this new alliance of the Obamas, the far lefties, Netflix, and a bunch of the lefties, I think, that are currently on in the leadership team of the WB Discovery. And at the end of the day, who's going to be hurt? It's the average American. The average American who's saying, why is there so much of this woke crap, this LGBT crap in like Looney Tunes and Batman and Superman and just regular TV shows that you want to watch or movies that you want to watch, and you're not interested in any of that political or like gender bending nonsense? That's what this is about.
So it's interesting, too, because I remember when, Netflix was really starting to pour money into original programming, and they would talk openly about how they were in an arms race with HBO to become the streaming version faster than HBO could become Netflix, basically. They wanted to become HBO faster than HBO could become Netflix. And now you have, with this Warner Brothers Discovery deal, and basically Netflix would acquire HBO. HBO Max will go to the streaming giant, and then the embattled cable network divisions, that's TNT, CNN, notably, HGTV, the Food Network, and Discovery will be spun out as a separately traded company. So what you have here behind the scenes is an ideological battle, because Oracle founder Larry Ellison, it's the son, right, of Larry Ellison, more conservative leaning, And they're worried about CNN as well. You've got to imagine that this is part of the calculus. They're worried that Paramount, that the Oracle founders would essentially turn CNN into a more conservative network. Meanwhile, Jack, just this morning, you have Trump, well, it was actually over the weekend, you have Trump was asked about this at the Kennedy Center event. Yeah, 116. Let's hear from President Trump here, 116.
Should they be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix?
Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell. And I'll be involved in that decision, too.
So what's interesting about this is it comes off the heels this morning, Jack, of another Paramount property. CBS got into President Trump's ire, into his crosshairs, and
it may have been a Truth Social.
It may have been a Truth Social, yeah. And he was basically he's saying, Paramount's not much better, CBS isn't much better. Look, they've still got the 60 Minutes on. They're terrible. I want an apology from Leslie Stahl. What is that dynamic? Explain what you think and what you're seeing behind the scenes there.
I mean, it's so clear, right? It's so clear what's going on because President Trump knows that the administration has huge regulatory authority here. This is something where now, obviously, the obvious antitrust problem is if Netflix buys HBO Max, right? So these are two of the biggest streamers, and one of the biggest streamers buys the other streamer. It would be like Coke buying Pepsi. And so you would this would create a monopoly problem. And Netflix is trying to explain this away. They're saying, no, you should consider us against all content out there. I mean, look at TikTok, look at, Rumble. They're trying to say that Netflix is comparable to that. And it's just obviously not true. It's just obviously not true. So it's huge antitrust problem there, which President Trump, of course, responded to on the floor of the Kennedy Center. He was on that step and repeat asking that question. But here's what's interesting is that he comes out this morning popping Paramount saying like, hey guys, no free ride for you either, because I'm going to be watching you guys like a hawk. Because I have to look at the timing, but I'm sure that he probably heard that Paramount's hostile deal was coming in. And it also just broke that there was a secret meeting where the head of Netflix actually went over to the White House, and they did have a meeting and sat down in the Oval Office. That had never been reported. The White House didn't put that out because he was trying to make sure there were no regulatory hurdles. Now President Trump coming in saying, you know what, just because you guys want to come in, I know you got my son-in-law on board, but guess what? If you want there to be no issues with you, I want to see a little bit more fairness when it comes to CBS, when it comes to 60 Minutes, all of this. So, I mean, the ball's really in President Trump's court on a lot of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're watching the art of the deal play out here, where he's applying pressure to both parties, and so they're essentially both in a position where they need to suck up to President Trump, which is which is probably just where the president wants it. And I mean, these are huge stakes. If people are not understanding why we're talking about this deal here on this show, on the Charlie Kirk Show, we have to also understand that there's so many of these cultural touch points, these cultural, I guess, seeds for either wokeness or a return to common sense that are planted at this level with these long form shows that have become so popular. What kind of ideologies are getting spread and implanted in the narratives, and then they filter out into our politics. This kind of stuff, I would argue, is more important than about 98% of the other things we can talk about. Now, I would put birthright citizenship slightly more ahead of this, but there's very few issues that are truly this important that have such civilizational weight behind them. Blake, I don't know.
Talking about.
I just still think it's funny everyone obsesses.
It's where we get it from.
Yeah, go ahead, Blake.
I just think it's very funny how much people care about TV.
Yes, because people do. That's the point. That's the point we're making. Whether
they do,
yeah,
they just do.
Yeah, it's hugely important. Michael in our studio goes, I care. Yes.
Well, where
that's
do people get their worldview from, right? People aren't going to sit and, you talk about birthright citizenship, right? People aren't sitting around and reading Supreme Court rulings. They're watching Netflix miniseries, right? But they will watch a Netflix miniseries on it, or they will sit down and watch whatever HBO's got on it. So that's why it's important. It's because that's where people get their story of the world, their story of who we are, their story of who they are. It's where they get their views on religion. It's starts with, and by the way, and studies have shown, go look at Marshall McLuhan talking about this in the 60s, that people have gotten their worldview from mass media since the 1950s on. This started with radio, then it moved to television, and today streaming is just the newest iteration of that, sort of streaming plus social media. So if you're not paying attention to who's in control of this, then you're not paying attention to who's in control of the minds of the masses. And that's what this is about. Who is in control of the minds of the masses?
Well said. I agree with you, Jack. But Blake, to your point, one of the charming things about Blake is that he's sort of immune from this, and he's pure. He's not. He's So I appreciate we work in tandem. It works together. We're going to talk about Cinnabon next with Jack Posobiec. Don't go anywhere.